sheriff's role, what is the most important issue that you would address first as the next county sheriff? Carl.
Well, actually, there's two, and they intersect to some degree, and that's the heroin epidemic and the 23% increase in crime. We had 21 deaths from heroin overdoses last year, and it doubled over the year before. We've already surpassed that number this year with 22 as of this date, I understand. In the first quarter of this year, we had more overdose deaths in our county than within Montgomery County or Prince George's County, and they have 4 times the population that we do. As for the heroin epidemic, we're late to the game and playing catch-up. Current efforts are woefully inadequate, relying on random traffic stops to produce small amounts of heroin in the hands of addicts who've gone to Baltimore to purchase it, and that's not an effective strategy. Public drug awareness events scheduled weeks before the election are of little value. The public drug awareness meetings, they do have some value in that they get some information out to a limited number of people in the community. But the first one had 5 people, I think 5 to 7 people attend. The second one had about 30 people attend. And I've been to these things around the country, and the people that generally come aren't the people that you need to come. Usually they're the people that have an interest in doing something about the problem. That's why they've showed up. And like I say, there needs to be an action plan after these meetings. The drug awareness meetings, like I say, it's nice to provide a little bit of information. Without any action plan or any movement after that, that's a collaborative effort, then the awareness meetings are of little value. They're actually a 20th century method, and I actually have a comprehensive plan to attack the drug abuse problem and the 23% increase in crime. I posted it on my website, www.bickelforsheriff.com, and written about it in several local newspapers. That it's not hard to Google my name and find much that I've written about it.
So Carl, this is where I start to interrupt.
Sure.
So can you speak to specifically, because they may not have the opportunity or haven't had the opportunity to read that, why don't you speak to what are the actions that you would take to address the heroin issue? Because I think that's a big concern for all of us, and we'll have Sheriff Jenkins respond as well.
Particularly because there is an intersection between the heroin issue and the 23% increase in crime. That we want to address them together. That one of the first things we want to do is bring together, this is where I get into the weeds on this, and sometimes people's eyes glaze over. But what we want to do is we want to put together a symposium that brings together all the stakeholders in the community that have an interest and are in a position to actually help and move things forward. That in that symposium, what we need to do is we need to cover historically what's happened, where are we now, and where do we want to be. Now, once again, I've been to a number of those things around the country, and often what happens is there's a symposium, people leave, and nothing happens. What we want to do is take the stakeholders that are going to be involved in the symposium, and you reach out to these people and bring them to the symposium. People from the school system, people from the health department, people from the prosecutor's office, people from the clergy, because everybody in the community, every segment of the community is a stakeholder in this. So the after-action plan from the symposium is to put together a comprehensive plan of how you're going to attack it. After that plan is put together, in my plan, we talk about using a management tool that's used in law enforcement. And this is the part that people tend to glaze over and wonder what is it you actually mean. But at any rate, it's a process that was developed in New York City that would bring district commanders and such together. And they would have weekly meetings, discuss what progress is being made, holding the commanders accountable for action or inaction, see what emerging issues there are. Well, essentially what I want to do is I want to take this process and bring the community into it. As far as I know, this hasn't been done anywhere around the country. A friend of mine that was involved in, actually worked where the CompStat process was developed and wrote a book on it, has told me that she was not aware of any place that the community has actually been brought into this CompStat process. And that would involve all of the stakeholders being in the process, all of the stakeholders being involved in the weekly meetings, all of the stakeholders getting assignments, working together. And what I mean by working together too is not people going back working in silos. We have people in the community that are trying to do a good job, and they're doing a good job within their organizations, but there's not as much collaboration as there could or should be. And what we want to do is we want to bring the collaboration and the communications together.
Okay, thank you.
If you don't mind, Jennifer, I'd like to stand
Yeah,
up and
go right
address.
ahead.
Can I have the podium?
Yes.
Thank you. Good evening. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. You know what? I would basically argue with my opponent. We are ahead of the game. We've been ahead of the game in Frederick County. Right now, we are hitting the heroin problem as hard as we can. We've been doing this for just about 18 months now. I myself have been personally involved in public meetings, awareness meetings with our stakeholders, with Frederick County Public Schools, with the health department, with the drug courts, with the state's attorney's office, the prosecutors. Folks, the sad truth is the public doesn't attend the meetings. You can advertise that as much as you want, but it seems as if the heroin problem doesn't fall through the front door, no one attends. I don't think there's fault lies with anybody in public safety and with any of the stakeholders. Also, as an agency, we are doing more than any other local law enforcement agency in Frederick County or in the region. Right now, yes, we're doing interdiction operations on the roadways coming into Frederick County from points east because that's where the heroin travels. We've done 8 operations this year. We've netted almost 100 arrests, primarily heroin, heroin paraphernalia, large quantities of marijuana. Absolutely, small quantities of heroin, but it's effective. Also, local community-based drug complaints. We're out there, we're handling those investigations, we're doing thorough investigations, we're locking up drug dealers, small-level drug dealers. Major trafficking investigations. Folks, we're doing it. I can tell you, our men and women are working as hard as they can. Recently, just a couple years ago, we dismantled a major drug trafficking group that stretched from Cumberland to Salisbury. The case initiated in Frederick County. 69 federal indictments, 12 local state charge defendants. So what we're doing is effective. The very simple truth is you can't arrest your way out of this problem. If I had every man and woman in the agency out there hitting the drug problem, there's still not enough of us. So it goes back to awareness, education, what can we as family members do, what can parents do to influence their kids more than the drug dealers, their peers, and all those other problems out there. So heroin is a huge problem. Yes, it is. We've had 21 fatalities this year. Is it more than PG County? Is it more than Montgomery County? I really doubt that. I haven't seen those numbers myself, so I would question those numbers. There are some other priorities. And listen, you can't get too focused in law enforcement. You got a lot of balls in the air, a lot of problems out there. Society is kind of falling apart on us. So there's other pieces of that. Security and safety in our schools, a key priority for me. It will continue to be because, again, we need to do that piece of it to help get the drugs out of the schools. Scans in schools. Second week into the school year, I told our canine officers, get out there, don't let the students get comfortable, do the scans, get those drugs out of the schools. It's effective. Large quantities, no, but it's effective. Another thing, we need to stay focused. And again, the heroin is a huge piece of it. The drug problem is a huge piece of society's problem. But again, local law enforcement has to stay focused on potential homeland security problems and threats because our government is not doing a good job in protecting our local jurisdictions. We need to keep our eye on the ball. We've got things out there that are threats to our community. We're a target-rich environment in Frederick County. So, you know, we have to be really wary of the homegrown extremist groups, the international threats, the Islamic extremists that we know are on our soil and they're a threat to Frederick County. It's here, folks, I can tell you that. So those are the issues that I will continue to address as I have over my 8 years as sheriff. I am a 2-term incumbent Republican. I provided leadership to this agency. I've managed an agency of over 400 employees. I've had oversight of a budget that exceeds $44 million this current fiscal year. And very frankly, I think arguably, I think we've done a good job. The agency's done a good job. Not because I'm sheriff, but I've been a part of this agency for 25 years from the ground up. We've got good men and women. We've got great men and women that are very vision-oriented, and we're going to continue to stay the course. And we will get a handle on the drug problem. The thing is, when we get heroin off the street, like we did pills about 2 years ago, something else will come along to take the place.
Thank you. Okay, so that leads me to a follow-up question is, to what extent are gangs in our schools involved with the drug problem, and how would you address it?
Gangs are a growing problem in Frederick County, no doubt about that. They're here, we know they're here. Gangs are criminal enterprises. They're about money, they're about guns, they're about violence. I can tell you what we have been doing and we're continuing to do. Again, through drug investigation, we have dismantled several criminal enterprises. I point back to the Southside Rims a couple of years ago, the large drug ring from Cumberland to Salisbury. We dismantled a local gang in a murder investigation, the B6 gang off of 5th Street up in Frederick. As far as the gangs in our schools, everybody says, you know what, they're wannabes. But you know what, folks? Wannabes are gonna-bes. They're drawn to that lifestyle, again, through the influence of the drugs, the money, the violence. Again, it's a criminal enterprise. You know, being a gang member in itself is not a crime. But being a gang member and you commit a crime and having a gang affiliation in the commission of certain crimes enhances the criminal penalties, it strengthens the prosecution, and it increases sentencing. So if you are a known gang member, you commit a crime. I'm not necessarily talking in the schools, but I'm talking now adults out of schools. You get these gang members in the commission of a serious crime, it enhances the penalties, you get them off the street for a long time. Transnational criminal gang members, mostly various Latino gangs, are identified and deported through the 287G program. We've deported more than 50 transnational criminal gang members out of Frederick County. That's an effective tool. The other thing we do, the best thing we do is gang intelligence. We do it on the street with our PACE unit. We do it in the jail with our corrections. We identify who the players are, because knowing who they are is key to getting a handle on the gangs in Frederick County. We track, we validate, we identify, we share this information with other local law enforcement through a database called GangNet. It's a statewide, it's a regional database, it's very effective. It allows law enforcement to identify just who these players are, again, so when they commit the crimes, we get them off the streets, we get them off for a long time.
Yes, as far as gang activity, like many other communities, there is gang activity in Frederick County. But the presence of a heroin epidemic and a 23% increase in crime are the kinds of things that attract gang activity. And if we don't get a handle on the heroin problem, the crime problem, gang activity will increase. And as far as us being ahead of the curve, 18 months is not, working on it for 18 months is not being ahead of the curve. The heroin problem has been emerging in the region for several years. That you can see it coming, the federal government saw it coming, and many other jurisdictions saw it coming for many years. That we really didn't start to address it here in Frederick County until there were a number of overdose deaths, until that went up at an alarming rate that took a double. That I would enhance the coordination of the allied agencies at local, state, and federal levels to ensure that we had a coordinated approach to do the kinds of things that the sheriff's talking about here. At the same time, the eradication of gang activity will be incorporated into the plan that I outlined to address the heroin and crime problem, because the gang activity is going to be part of that. That as you look at the emerging issues, as you look at the progress you're making, and the information is exchanged, where there is gang activity, that's going to pop right up. That when you have your people in the schools noticing gang activity, and they bring that information to the CompStat process, then the law enforcement portion, the clergy, the other folks that deal with the young people in the community can each do their part in order to identify gang members, try to prevent people from becoming gang members, and once again, it'll be done in a coordinated way, bringing together all the stakeholders in the community, not just the law enforcement agencies cooperating with each other, but cooperating with everybody in the community, all the stakeholders in the community that have a vested interest in the ability to help curb the problem.
Okay, thanks. Now, I think that leads us into a question about illegal immigration. And the question is, do we have a problem with illegal immigration in our county? And if yes, what would be your approach to dealing with the issue?
Well, there is a problem with illegal immigration. It's a national problem, and but it must be dealt with at the national level. There's no evidence that the sheriff's obsession with focusing on the immigration issue has reduced the number of illegal immigrants in Frederick